This week on X-Trex, pretentious racists in the sky, games where you can lose your eye, classism is bad and here is why.
It's the social class disparity episode. Welcome to X-Trex, a podcast where we introduce each other to our fandoms one episode at a time. I'm your host, Erin Cline, an X-Files spooky bitch.
And I'm your other host, Stella Cheeks, a slut for Star Trek the original series. Each podcast, we pick 2 episodes that fit a cinematic theme, watch them together, and then discuss our feelings.
Our theme this week is social class disparity. Fun. Tell us about your episode, I guess.
This week, we're watching the Season 3 episode, The Cloudminders, a.k.a. Star Trek tries to talk about apartheid. Oh, and also let's throw some haphazard romance and impenetrable Federation politics into the mix. It's one of those ones where you're like, for 1969, it's a pretty good try, but through a 2024 lens, it's lacking commitment. Kirk can talk computers to death, sure, but he can't talk the racism out of space. But he won't stop trying.
And for the X-Files, we're watching the surprisingly celebrity-filled episode about an illegal underground gambling/organ harvesting ring. Season 3's Hell Money. Pretty over the plate on this one. If you're poor, you get to die after having a bunch of, organs extracted. Obviously, it's honestly a good episode considering.
Are you ready for Dig It In There, Mr. Spock?
Literally always.
I have never before met a Vulcan, sir.
Nor I a work of art, madam.
Okay, here comes the summary. I have not proofread it. Here we go. It's not very fun, because this episode's not fun. The Enterprise is headed to the planet Ardana to pick up a shipment of substance called Xenite, which is needed to halt a botanical plague on Merrick 2. Side note, wild to me that we are watching this episode before we talk about Tarsus 4. That's on me, everybody. That's on me. Kirk and Spock beam down directly to the Xenite mines, turn their eyes to the sky, and wax poetic about the floating city of Stratos, where everything is very good and definitely chill and is such a great society where no one works and everybody just does art all day. Soon they find themselves not with this shipment of Xenite, but rather taken hostage by a violent group of troglodyte. Yeah, you got it. Troglodyte miners led by a hot young woman. Though I guess we don't know that she's hot yet because she's got her goggles on or whatever. Their plans are quickly foiled by Mr. High Advisor Placis, who breaks up the kidnapping with a security force in the stupidest fucking outfit in the entire series. It's like the whole series.
So
there's
bad.
some wild over the place shit. These hats are a crime. These are bad. These are really bad. And immediately is not chill and very racist. He invites Kirk and Spock up to Stratos, and although Kirk is getting more squirrely about not having the very important mineral to stop a food-based plague, they agree to follow. Mostly because Spock has a hard-on for the mechanics of the floating city and a city that's focused on art and logic or whatever. He also has a hard-on for the High Advisor's hot daughter. Even Kirk is impressed with his boys' game here. On Stratos, they start to discern that the two societies are dramatically different and that Stratos may not be as good as they thought. Why would anyone destroy art, Mr. Spock? Because they're fucking oppressed. So oppressed that the troglodyte disruptor would rather kill himself than be tortured by the quote-unquote non-violent elite Ardanian society. That seemed right. Spock watches Kirk sleep. How and why we are napping, I don't know. Remember that there is a planet out there starving? Why are we asleep? And muses on about how someone so pretty and enlightened or whatever can be a racist bitch. How could he be so attracted to a bigot? Much musings. Kirk is almost killed by the hot troglodyte Vanna. I feel bad saying that word. I want to stop saying that word. I'm going to call her the disruptor. But he sleeps light and is always ready for a fight. Kirk and Spock are confronted with the fact that Stratos doesn't think that the disruptors deserve light and warmth because they are dumb. Kirk is about fed the fuck up and interrupts the advisor's torture ray and pushes back against their beliefs that the troglodytes are inferior. Instead of listening to Kirk and Spock, the advisor kicks the duo out of Stratos and forbids them to return upon pain of death, which is wild to me because how the fuck did this planet pass any regulations to become a Federation member? I do not understand. Fuck! Kirk and Spock return to the ship, where they learn from McCoy, a.k.a. the only good doctor in the universe, that unprocessed Xenite emits an odorless, invisible gas which diminishes mental capacity and heightens emotions. This explains why, on paper, the troglodytes have intellects that are 20% under average. Not that that's in any way a way to value human life. But whatever. Moving on. They realize together that the reason the disruptors seem more intelligent than the other troglodytes is that they've served aboard Stratos and that being away from the gas, the mental effects diminish. That's positive. Let's focus on the positives. Kirk reaches out to Stratos and tells the advisor about their findings and how all they need to do is give masks to the troglodytes. Of course, this absolute fucking bigot dictator says no to the mask and forbids Kirk from giving them to the miners. Kirk is, of course, like, fuck that, and beams directly into the prison where Vanna is being kept. He tells her about masks, and she's also like, nah, fuck a mask, because she can't see it, so the gas must not exist. Sound familiar, America? Anyway, Kirk tries to save the troglodytes and beams into the mine with the masks, but Vanna betrays him and makes him dig for Xenite with his hands. Naturally, Kirk loses his fucking mind, let's blame the gas, and traps himself and Vanna in the mines and is like, if you won't listen to me, we will both die here. Oh, and to spice it up, fuck it, let's beam the High Advisor Plastis down here too. We can all fucking die down here. Kirk just huffing on raw Xenite gas is ready to fight this dictator. And goes ham on this old guy with a knife. Kirk doesn't have the knife. The old guy has the knife. 2 knives. Kirk don't give a fuck. Vanna finally realizes that maybe Kirk is right and this gas is bad and contacts the Enterprise for help. After Kirk chills the fuck out, he and his crew finally get the Xenite prepared to transport to save that entire other planet with, I don't know, I think we got like 3 hours left. And High Bigot Plastis agrees begrudgingly to give the troglodytes masks. We are left with Vanna declaring that her people will still struggle for their equality, and hopefully Kirk has enough brains to contact the Federation to, I don't know, make sure that the planets they allow into the Federation don't have grave human rights violations. No space laughter. Also, it's boring. What did you think of this episode?
It was boring. Like, it's funny because, you know, in the order that we've watched these, the last episode that we watched was like, everybody hates it, but I have a rollicking good time till I got to the end. This was just like mid the whole time. There was very little that was, I liked the costumes, but then.
You like the hats?
I mean, not those costumes.
You like the women's costumes.
I like the women's costumes, correct. I
like the mining uniforms. I think they're pretty good.
And Vanna's like spacesuit thing was like very like flatteringly fitted. It looked really good. And like even the dirty disruptors, like those costumes fit them very well and like distinguish them visually from not the space dictator people. Yeah, it was just, I don't know. It felt, you're right. It didn't feel like it committed to the bit, really.
Yeah, they're like, wow, it's bad that you guys just do art all the time and that those other people are in the mines all the time. Yeah. They deserve like warmth and light and stuff. And then they're like, no, but they're dumb, so they don't deserve anything. And then Spock and Kirk are like, I think that's not right. Yeah. Let's go talk to Bones about it.
Yeah, it was like, it's one of those episodes where there's just like Bones magic and he's like, guess what, everybody, I solved everything. Like, I like that because I like that about Bones' character. I liked the sets, like in addition to liking the costumes, I liked the sets. I thought that the like rocks and stuff, and it felt like a deeper soundstage than they usually use, like for this kind of outdoor stuff. So I liked that a lot. I really liked the transparent overlay of Vanna when they were like talking about what the disruptors were like. It was just very well like there's a lot of this that is very well shot. It's just boring and like I don't know.
Fun fact about the writing, it's our girl Margaret Armin who doesn't know how to fucking write.
Of course, I want to be
like, woo, ladies in feminism, but this bitch is bad at writing.
Vanna's good though. That's what's weird about it. Is like Vanna is a pretty good character.
She did write one good woman, but then she wrote like this other girl has like a Disney princess voice and is just like having a really hard time sussing out why racism is bad.
Yeah.
While being like, just like Spock's so hot.
I know, openly lusting after Spock. Also, it's weird that her dad introduces her and is like, look at my beautiful daughter. And it's like, oh, okay.
Though I will say, compared to Armin's other episodes, which is the Paradise Syndrome and the bondage one where there's like Lady Gaga baby woman, it doesn't matter what it's called. I do think that she did write 2 interesting women in this one. It's very easy to dismiss the High Advisor's daughter, Droxima or something. I don't know. I watched this episode twice in like 24 hours and I still don't know her name because I hate these characters. Yeah, so I want to give credit where credit is due because I think that Vanna is pretty interesting, like as the leader of the disruptors and like this like kind of revolutionary character. And she isn't super swayed by Kirk's like sex magic or whatever. She keeps being like, this is sus, you're sus. Like, should she believe him about the gas? Yeah, but like, I get why she doesn't. And even at the end, they like awkwardly hug touch. And then she's like, okay, I'm going to keep fighting for equality. See you later.
Yeah, for real. Like, you're not just going to disappear and this is all going to be solved. Like, there's literal, like, institutional racism.
I like that she has that line because I think that is very important because many times in Star Trek, they're like, okay, see you later.
You solved it.
Solved racism or whatever. And then also, like, Drexima or whatever, her character is really annoying and does verge on the baby woman that Margaret Arman totally loves to write. But I do think as somebody, like it's not a one-to-one comparison, but if we look at it like, you know, if she was like a slave owner on a plantation and that's the only way she's ever been raised or whatever, and she's been told over and over that like, we're smarter than them, we're better than them, no, this is good for them, like they can't handle art, blah, 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 which is obviously really bad and racist. But then as she starts to learn, like, unlike her dad, she does start to question it. And, like, does she question it basically only because she wants to fuck Spock? Yes. But, like, whatever. I mean, at least we're left with the idea that, like, maybe near the end she is starting to, like, maybe not be a full tilt revolutionary and she's still bad. Racism and racists are still bad. But I do think showing that, like, interesting, I was raised in this, I don't know anything else, being presented with a different point of view. In a pretty short time, we do see her start kind of questioning it.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like...
She still sucks, though.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, sex is actually a very good motivator. Like, I don't know, I have had sex with a couple people where I was like, if you don't vote, we're not going to continue to have sex. And, like, it has a 100% success rate. Like, it is a good motivator in many ways. And so, like... After he explained Pon Farr to her, which was fucking crazy.
Season 3 Spock said, I'm telling everybody my business.
For real.
No wonder this bitch said, I got a colinar. I'd be running my mouth. I gotta get these emotions out.
Yeah, that was fucking wild. That just, like, came out of nowhere. But, like, since she knew about that, and that's, like, an intimate thing, like, that's a motivator to be like, maybe I should question this thought that he's, like, really pushing. And also, like, that is how you convince people that are, like, really locked in on that. It's people that they know directly who explain that to them, or, like, a cousin comes out, or, like, whatever, or one of your best friends is, like, actually, I'm queer. Like, that is how people get used to that kind of thing, too. So it is interesting, but it's one of those things where it's like, did she mean to do that? I don't know that she did.
Also, again, it doesn't go far enough. The whole problem with this is, like, the thesis of this episode is clear, and they do say some shit out loud, like, everybody deserves, you know, light and warmth and, you know, basic human rights. But at the end, then it's just like, okay, we got our Xenite, here's some masks, peace out, hope your society's fixed later.
Yeah, it's a temporary solution that will take a really long... It is a very good commentary on institutional racism and sexism where, like, sure, you put a Band-Aid on this, but, like, did it fix the hole? No, not really. Like, it is a very interesting parallel. But again, did she mean to write it that way? I don't know that she did. I don't know. Maybe I'm not giving her enough credit.
Maybe she did, but again, it just, like, doesn't go far. And again, this is 1969 or whatever. So, like, again, like I said at the beginning, through a 1969 lens, decently impressive. Through a 2024 lens, not enough.
Yeah.
Not even close to enough. Like, even the fact that Spock was like, I'm kind of struggling here. And it took him, like, half an episode to be like, nope, this is bad. This is all bad.
Yeah.
This is bad. This is bad.
I think this lady's hot, but ultimately this is bad.
Also, I just love the season 3 episodes where they, like, tried to write Spock as, like a ladies' man or whatever, because the women who were watching the show overwhelmingly were drawn to Spock, and they wrote letters about it, so much so that, like, Shatner got, like, fucking, like, jealous and all this stuff. And so the writers were like, I don't know, let's push this Spock as a ladies' man, and it just doesn't work. It's just, like, full
that's
stop
not what's
doesn't work.
appealing to him. That's it's like a fundamental change to his character. I did like that they had the long shot of his back while he sat down. I was like, that's for the ladies. There were enough letters that mentioned that specifically. They were like, just do a long shot of his back. I also really liked that I got my favorite rare pair. We had Spock and Scotty, my favorite boys. They were just like, ooh, I'll do my job. You do your job. And I was like, yes, they're my favorites.
What a funny rare pair.
I love them. I think they're so
Go for
fun.
it.
I love it.
You can ship basically anybody in on the Enterprise, and I'll be sort of down for it.
Sort of. There are some.
It depends. It depends on if you're like isolating somebody, blah, 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 whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Okay, I don't really have any more thoughts on this mid-ass episode.
Yeah, it's so mid. Okay, so here's some like fan lore mythology, apocrypha, etc.
whatever.
Yeah, the showrunner of Star Trek Enterprise, which is, you know, the one that everybody thinks is bad, but is not actually very bad. Manny Koto stated that he had wanted to feature the Cloud City of Stratos in the 4th season, saying that he really wanted to do like a 2-parter about it, which I thought would have been interesting. And because Enterprise technically is before TOS, he wanted to do is like, what was society like earlier? Like, I think that could have been interesting to examine, like, how they came so far between, like, literal cloud in the sky, people on the ground. Also, like, sidebar, it does feel like Matt Mercer watched this episode and it was like, Draconia, this is Draconia. And I just wanted to say it out loud because it's all I was thinking about. Which is fine. Steal from the classics. I love it. Fun fact, this episode was aired on my birthday in 1969. February 28th, 1969. My mom wasn't even born then. Time is bad. Okay, so this kind of goes into the ideas of the writing. It's kind of messy. So this episode was submitted based on a story by David Gerald, and I think somebody else was slated to write it, and then it went to Margaret Arman. But it was intended to be a parable between the haves and have-nots, obviously, the elite being removed from everyday life and, like, jerking off into their terrible art.
It's really bad.
For a society who makes art all day, this art is bad.
Yeah, it is.
Space art, bad. At least here. Cloud art, bad. And it was originally supposed to be, they were being called mannies instead of manual laborers. Troglodytes is better, but also why, I don't know. Why would a society that has nothing to do with Earth have a word that's like troglodytes? It doesn't make sense. Fake slurs still ring bad.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Fake slurs always still ring bad.
Yep.
I don't like it. But it was, so the gas thing was there, and it was supposed to be like, oh, they're in this, like, you know, gas area that's denser, and it's like fucking them up more than the people who are literally in the skies. Mm-hmm. But it was literally supposed to be that the minor society was like torn between 2 revolutionary leaders, and it was kind of supposed to be like MLK and Malcolm X. No wonder that was scrubbed, because this episode happened shortly after King was assassinated.
Oh, great.
So I think they were like, oh, how do we do this without doing that quite? They were also supposed to go a little bit harder about it, whereas, like, when Kirk was, like, patting himself on the back and being like, we got them talking, 2-state solution or whatever the fuck, McCoy was literally supposed to be like, okay, maybe it will get solved, but in the meantime, when we walk away, how many children specifically will die? And then it was supposed to be like, oh, how do we think about that? And, like, again, there's not a lot of nuance there or whatever. Not that there necessarily has to be, but, like, if the episode had ended similarly to that, with them, like, actively questioning it more instead of just Vanna being like, I'm still fighting, weird awkward hug, bye.
Yeah.
At least it would have, like, stuck to the guns a little bit more. And kudos for this fake McCoy who didn't say this, for being like, this is still bad, you didn't do anything, we have to go. Yeah, so I think that there was just some lost in translation stuff. Like, it was supposed to leave you a little bit more uneasy, and this one kind of tries to wrap it up in a bow a little bit, which feels very Margaret Arman. Also, she was supposed to be the showrunner on this, and because of, like, cancellations, things and stuff, she didn't get to be the showrunner, which is, like, a bummer. Like, I don't think she would have done a good job, because I don't think she's good, but also, like,
she should have been allowed to try.
Yeah, she should have been allowed to try. There are a lot of shitty showrunners on this show. Let her try. Not everybody can be DC Fontana. Yeah, wild that fucking Spock would just talk to Druxine about Ponfar. Like, to go from KG, and then being like, I'm just going to tell this girl about it. He just, whatever. Ugh, wild. That interior monologue of, like, Spock giving his whatever, that only happens, I think, in, like, 2 other episodes, but one of those other episodes is Paradise Syndrome, and it's from Fred Friedberger, who is one of the producers. He was the one that requested it, because he was like, this story is not clear enough. The writing is not good enough. You have to just put exposition in it. And Paradise Syndrome is another episode that Margaret Arman wrote. So this dude was like, she can write him, but we have to fix him.
Always needs a punch up.
I mean, I do have a deep love for her. She is terrible, but I do love her. There's something, you know what? Men can fail up all the time. She can fail up. I don't care. Also, she was the one that was like, let's put tentacles in this. And I think that is funny. And I will never not think it's funny. The last bit that I have about this that I thought was really interesting is that Stratos was designed by Matt Jeffries, who drew a rough sketch, never finished a drawing, but then the city itself was created from green foam, white glue, hacksaw blades, and X-Acto knives. And so they just chopped up the foam and they like made it physically. And then they just put a bunch of fucking cotton on the bottom and then shot it like hanging. So it is like a practical model, which I think reads. It like looks cool. It's not just like, I think Stratos like reads as like a cool city in the sky. So I just like the idea that they were like, yeah, that's pretty good. And just took a bunch of X-Acto knives and was like, got it, season 3, this is the budget. Season 3, this is the budget.
It does look good when they did that shot. Like it gets across what they're trying to, that it's a paradise in the sky.
Yeah. I think like for an episode that has a thesis that's very over the plate, or should be, it just gets in its way too much. Mm-hmm. Tries to put in like 2 romance subplots, and then there's the plot about the planet that's like dying. Yeah. So then there's like an unnecessary clock on it. Like they have to leave or else an entire planet will die. Like there's too much going on. We could have maybe drilled down deep and like tried to like talk about it a little bit more. And then they were like, I don't know, this is bad. Maybe anyway. one part of a society shouldn't have everything while everybody else, does all the work. But, Do you want to do synopsis showdown?
Sure, I guess.
Cool. Kirk and Spock begin to unravel an unjust and unequal society with poorly timed flirting and the best filter masks a season 3 network television budget can buy.
Extremely mid-episode about how sex can save a society.
I guess. So technically they didn't have sex. They just talked a lot about it.
Well, some people are into that. I read My Monster Girlfriend. Some people just like that.
Yeah, I just wish I went a little bit harder. I want more commentary for my sci-fi. Not this mid-ass shit.
Yeah, well, they all can't be winners and we have to watch them all.
Yeah, unfortunately.
We chose this concept.
The next episode is good. The next episode is good.
Oh my god. All right, are you ready for Scully? It's me.
Yes.
All right, fantastic.
Where would I get this hell money?
Okay, so we start out with this, brutal murder with 3 masked men who tell some dude that he has to pay the price and then, straight up burn him alive in a crematorium. Fun! Naturally, Mulder and Scully are sent to investigate, as this is the latest in a series of fatal incinerations in Chinatowns across the country, I guess. Why is Mulder specifically sent to work on this case? Obviously, Mulder believes that it's a fucking ghost that's behind all of the deaths, while Scully, not an insane person yet, suspects that it might be a cult or some kind of gang violence. And, listen, it was the 90s. People, culted their way all over the place. And guess what? It's B.D. Wong. Anyway, he's a detective in San Fran who's assisting the... Yeah, for real. It was exciting to see him. Assisting the agents on the case because basically everyone only speaks Cantonese, which is, another reason it's absolutely bonkers these 2 ding-dongs were sent out on this case. I assume that it's because Skinner was literally get the fuck to the other side of the country. I don't want to deal with you anymore. B.D. Wong tells the agents that a mysterious character written inside the oven...
B.D. Wong's really loud. B.D. Wong.
B.D. Wong, listen.
No, it's just, it's something Erin does during synopsises that I like, where when a prominent actor is playing a role, that character no longer has a name. It is the actor who is in the story.
Right, you do that. I fully do. Or I make up a nickname for them. Anyway, B.D. Wong tells the agents that the mysterious character written inside the oven means ghost. So Mulder, immediately gets a paranormal boner and is like, I told you it was ghost. But even better, B.D. Wong explains to them that the scrap of paper that Mulder found somehow survived in the process of annihilating bones. But whatever, here's this little piece of paper. Anyway, it's called Hell Money. Get it? That's the type. Anyway.
It's an excellent name for an episode.
Yeah, it is really good. Again, this is a surprisingly good episode. Anyway, uses hell money that's used as symbolic offering for deceased spirits so they don't murder you or whatever. The leaving intensifies. Meanwhile, we meet Sin, who is taking care of his daughter. What's up? It's Lucy Liu, and she has cancer. In order to pay for her American-ass expensive leukemia treatments, a fucked up thing we make people pay for, we found out that Sin has been attending an underground lottery where participants who are selected either win or lose an organ. Also fun. Also, all of this is determined by pulling 2 random tiles out of vases. Not at all sketchy in any way. We see the winner select a bad tile, and what do you know? That man gets murdered as fuck. Scully, ready at any moment to do an autopsy at this point, finds a bunch of surgical scars all over his body and determines that he's been selling off his organs, which Mulder said, a few bucks? That's what they cost? Because he's a fucking idiot. Anyway, this guy got murdered because he pulled a tile for an essential organ. That's how it fucking works. Mulder and Scully are like, yo, BD Wong, what the fuck is this? And he's like, I don't know. Nobody tells me anything. All right, keep your secrets then. Anyway, okay, so here's some detective work involving a carpet where it's revealed that Sin is now missing an eye. Anyway, BD Wong is like immediately gets attacked and winds up in the hospital. Not dead, but also not there when the agents try to visit him. Suspicious. There's so much going on in this episode. Sin is then visited by the equivalent of a mob head He's the Chinese cigarette smoking man. That's the reveal at the end. Whatever.
Oh.
So he's smoking a cigarette.
Oh, yeah. Nice symbolism. You got me.
Oh, man. All right, so the the Chinese cigarette smoking man tells Sin, no way, bitch, you cannot escape this lottery. We are playing it every night, and you are going to be there. And the rules, they can't be broken. And if he tries to leave, he'll be consumed by the ghostly fire. Get it? Because of the ghost inside of the fire. Anyway.
No, I got that part.
Yes.
It was just the cigarette part that I did. Everything else I got. This summary is not for me. It is for our audience.
Anyway, there's more carpet detective work, and they're like, uh-oh, BD Wong, he might be dead. And when they go to see Sin, all they find is a very worried and still dying Lucy Liu. Sin isn't home because he's back at the lottery. Again, they do it every fucking night, I guess. And oh my god, he won! But actually, that's terrible because he selects the tile that means goodbye to your heart. But oh my god, BD Wong, he's not dead, and he's there, and he tries to convince the organizers / organ harvesters that they should definitely let Sin live due to the whole having a dying daughter and knowing being able to take care of her thing. And they're like, LOL, BD Wong, what the fuck? Absolutely not. And BD Wong is like, I will see you in fucking hell, and overturns the table like he's Stella trying to fuck up my shithead ex-boyfriend. That really happened. That is not a joke. That's a statement of fact. Oh my god, all of the tiles are for organ harvesting. Why did literally no one ever notice that no one won? I assume it's like a 3-card Monty thing where people who did win were like plants involved in a scam, but they never fucking explain it. Anyway, BD Wong runs into the next room where Sin is about to be down 1 heart. And BD Wong is like, oh, that's right, I have a gun. And fires it at the cigarette smoking man, the Chinese, whatever you get it now, alerting Scully's super sense about guns. And they just show up immediately and arrest everybody, including BD Wong, because they are at their core feds. Like most mob pyramid schemes, no one is willing to testify against the head guy, so this will go fucking nowhere. But Sin did actually get out of the lottery and is seen getting Lucy Liu onto a legit organ list, but because of that, BD Wong gets murdered as fuck. The end. What do you think of this episode? It's pretty good. Yeah, right? It's surprisingly good.
Yeah, I liked it. It's fun when we watch these episodes to see all the like big time actors like BD Wong and Lucy Liu and James Hong. Yeah, so that was fun. It's an interesting concept. It is one of my squicks. Organ harvesting stuff is rough for me to watch, so immediately I was like, oh fuck. But yeah, I thought it was interesting. Mulder and Scully in this do some good detective work, though I did feel bad for BD Wong about them like just bossing him around a bunch. They were like, we don't have the budget for a translator, so you have to be our translator.
Well, that's also part of the point, too, is that the episode is really about how even when Mulder and Scully like try to engage and know things, like they are ultimately outsiders.
Yeah.
And so like they don't know how to interact with him because they don't view him as an equal in many ways either. And he talks about being American-born Chinese and how his community also feels that way about him too. And so it's like, it is a good commentary. It's just, this is such a strange X-Files episode.
Yeah, I mean, he did a good episode. And yeah, this episode did a good job of putting him in a very unique position of like not wanting to betray his community. Also, he's being paid off by the mob and like, you know, don't turn your back on the mob, right? Or else you get burned alive.
Yeah, exactly.
But then also like, I think he had a desire, like he wanted to work with the feds. I think he, you know, he didn't seem like a cop that was like, fuck you, Fed. He was more, you know, so and put in that position of like, I want to be good at my job. I want to help these people, but ultimately, like, I'm put in a position where I'm kind of fucked.
I'm a cog in a machine in many ways. And like when he doesn't know about Lucy Liu, and when he discovers it, he's like, maybe this dude shouldn't die. I don't think that this is necessarily a great idea.
Yeah.
It's weird too, because we never hear anything else about anybody else's motivations and why they're there or why they're trying to win this money.
Yeah, but I think it's like, assumed, like a lot of the people it's at the event, I think, is hinted at heavily that they are Chinese immigrants and don't have a lot and feel very like, I need this. And if I win, then, all my problems will be solved. Also, like, as fucked up as it is, like, there were people that were having a good time. Like, this was like a sense of like community, and we're all playing this high stakes game. And like, what did that line that the Chinese cigarette smoking man said? He said, "Life without hope. Now that's a living hell. And I give these people hope," which is like fucked up. But like they had a community, like a fucked up community where every night somebody had to get like tortured or died. But
yeah, I like too that. So the episode is based on like 3 major ideas: a pyramid scheme involving body parts, a lottery in a small town where someone is selected, and like, hello, obviously it's the lottery, and like that's my like high school short story that fucked me up super bad, and I think
Shirley
about
Jackson one?
Yeah. And like this is the exact same thing. Like, you open up a piece of paper, there's a spot on it, you get murdered by the town because that's just how the community works. And like, this is very similar to that. And then the third one is about corporate beings assembling destitute people in Chinatown. So like new immigrants and people who are poor, and like putting them specifically in that community so that they can't escape the game and the organ harvesting ring too. And they do a pretty good job of like smooshing all 3 of these concepts together. Chris Carter wrote this, like, which, like, I don't know.
Broken clock, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, for all of this shit smushed together, like, you actually, for Chris Carter, did a pretty fucking good job here. It worked.
Interesting, too, that they, like, make it seem like this is a, like, national ring, too.
Yes, absolutely. 100. And
that's why that's what we're brought in.
And that's the idea, too, of, like, the corporate interests behind it that are, like, we'll just seed this everywhere and, like, sell these body parts, I guess.
They were holding on to a lot of them, though, like...
Yeah, that's true. They were sterilizing it. Like they were making it work.
Chilling in that fridge.
This was supposed to be an episode where Scully was right. That was the idea, is that they wanted to finally run an episode where Scully was right because she's always fucking wrong all the time, and then she was not right in this one, which is weird because like the idea is that Mulder was right because of the ghost fire or fucking whatever, but like it is a gambling ring, which is like gang activity and it is a cult, but like ultimately this was written off as like Mulder was right again, which is weird. This is also
I feel like they both solved it at the same time.
Yes, I would agree with that.
I feel like this is just kind of like a regular detective episode.
Yes,
this is not an X-Files episode. There's
you are 100% right.
There's no, like, other than the fact that there is the word ghost written in the crematorium, essentially. There's nothing X-Filesy about this.
That's like major complaint about this episode, is that it is not really. You could remove them and it would be the exact same episode.
I like that there are these episodes peppered in because they are still just feds, right?
Yeah,
like,
totally.
You're gonna get sent on a semi-normal one every once in a while, right? Like, you're just gonna, and also like most supernatural shows, LOL, but like Supernatural, but other shows that deal with supernatural elements always do at least one, but the humans are really the bad guys episode. Like, that's a very common trope in like spooky shit, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like it's the Scooby-Doo reveal. Like, oh, you think it's a ghost, but actually it's just, Big Pharma or whatever. Like, it translates well.
I mean, technically, the episode we just watched and recorded, or the episode we recorded before this one, that was also just Big Pharma fucking around. Like, There was technically no X-Files. It was just like, let's fuck around with like nature and find out. Like, there's no X-File in that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you just get a rough case.
Yeah, and like that's the whole deal in season 2, right? Is that they're not supposed to be working on the X-Files. They're like sent out to like whatever, Mulder, get the fuck over there. We don't want to deal with you. Like, yeah, this is a series that had 20 plus episodes every season, and like sometimes you're just gonna get one that's like over the plate a little bit, and like for one that doesn't really feel like an X-File, it is a surprisingly good episode too.
Well, and also too, like, if you are the people that deal with the spooky shit or whatever, anything that has anything spooky adjacent, you're going to get sent on the one that has the word ghost, right? Like,
absolutely.
you're just going to get sent on those ones.
Absolutely. And Mulder also pulls APBs from like every fucking station in the entire country. And
You
he's
know
like,
he picks
"Ooh, like 8
most
of
of his cases.
Oh, 100%.
He's
He
like,
just
what if I
sends-
did this one?
He just sends Mulder like a telegram, like, I left, I'll see you later. Whatever.
He just presents Skinner with like 6 different cases and is like, one of these? And Skinner just points and goes, leave, please. Leave, please.
It's the amount of interaction I want to have with you. Goodbye.
They never explained what the frog actually meant.
I don't know. Chinese medicine. There was the dried one that meant prosperity or
No,
whatever.
but they were like, you lied to us. Why would you put this in this body if it meant that? And then BD Wong was like, oh, I don't know.
I have no idea. I know that it was an actual animal wrangler who did that. There was a
Frog.
fake corpse and he had to sit inside of it and push the frog up through the top.
Little baby frog. I got this froggy in my lap.
Yep. They did a lot of like practical like molds and stuff on people to do a lot of this, which makes sense.
It looks good.
It does look really good. Like the opening of that one is gross as
It's
fuck.
gnarly.
But like it fits with what's going
That
on.
frog came out with no blood or viscera on it, though. That was a clean ass frog. That frog should have had a little, like, I know that there aren't organs in there anymore, but that frog should have been like a little dirty.
Maybe they exsanguinated him. Maybe they also were like, because they talked about like someone had universal donor blood, like they would
BD
also.
Wong did.
Yes, well, they would also harvest that, I assume, unless you're being burned alive for flipping the table over or whatever. Should have bolted it to the ground.
Should have killed that guy. He said he should have killed me.
Mm-hmm. Shot him in the shoulder. Should have shot him right in the head. Scully would have done it. She'd gotten
Scully's
that.
about to. She had one hand on the gun. It's like,
She's
I don't,
ready.
I don't play.
Scully's ready at any moment to shoot somebody.
She said, I come from a different mob, the government.
Yeah, the reviews are really mixed. Some people think it's extraordinarily scary, probably for the same reason
Yeah,
that we do.
organ harvesting is scary.
Yeah, it's cited as the 11th most nightmare-inducing episode of the show, which, like, makes sense, because it's not scary in the same way, but, like, it is a nightmare to think about being stuck in something like this, possibly dying and leaving your sick child. Like,
Yeah.
I fully
Also,
get.
all of the burning alive.
Yes, absolutely.
Don't forget that part.
Absolutely. There's a lot of burning alive in this. One of the negative reviews that I found really weird is, unfortunately, the structure of the episode gave the audience answers long before the agents discovered them, making the bulk of the episode an exercise. And, like, that is the whole read a book. Like, that's the whole fucking
Read
point.
a book.
Like, that is exciting as an audience member to know that you know more than they do. And, like, that happens all the time in the X-Files. It's a really good narrative device. Yes. Hello.
I also wanted to add to that because this is written narratively so much like noir film as well.
Yes.
And that is a heavy trope in noir where
Yeah.
you see the crime and you know what it is, and the story is the detective figuring it out and putting the pieces
Yes. Read a book.
Read a book, reviewer.
Read a fucking book. Anyway.
I did like the structure of it, how most of the time when 2 Chinese people were speaking together, it wasn't translated.
Yes. I agree.
I thought that was really effective in like building tension and like not knowing when or what organ was going to be taken, or like you kind of know, like, you know, it's a game, but you don't totally know that it's organ harvesting at first, and you kind of have to slow burn figure that out. I thought that was really effective. Like, they translate what needs to be translated for you to follow the story.
Yeah. And for a show like on Fox in the 90s to have so much that's both not translated and also a lot of subtitles, like for a show that runs in primetime, like that is unusual for this time too, that they both were willing to not translate and also to be like, you're going to fucking read this.
Yeah. I liked it.
Fantastic. Synopsis showdown?
Great.
If you gamble, you will die.
Mulder and Scully once again solve a crime and yet get 0 evidence, and all the bad guys win.
The X-Files.
The X-Files.
All right.
Also, though, I would like to say, at the end, he's like, I'm not going to go to jail. All these people won't flip on me. But Mulder and Scully do, with their eyeballs, witness several crimes. And even though they are law enforcement, their testimony would count. They witnessed several of the crimes. Not just hearsay, not just we think we know what's going on, or they gave a confession, but it was off the record. They had probable cause to enter that building, so there's nothing there. And then they saw the crime happen. This dude could still go down. I don't understand. I wrote the synopsis because I was like, it's pithy or whatever. But, like, truly, they did have enough evidence to put that dude away.
I don't know, man.
I'm just saying, I'm just saying.
I don't know. Mulder's not allowed to testify anymore, remember? This is a mostly good episode. Man, it's a little, there's some ends that don't get tied up.
Whatever.
Anyway, are you ready for Deep Throat's mission logs?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic.
You sleep lightly, Captain.
Yes, duty is a good teacher.
Starting with the Cloud Minders.
It's a dumb name.
The Blish adaptation is the Cloud Miners.
Good.
The name that actually makes sense
Yes.
for the episode.
Though, if they don't mine in the clouds, they're the Cloud Minders. They mind
art.
the society
They
or
mind
whatever.
their minds. No, it's a bad name.
It's dumb. It's a bad title.
It's a bad name.
Margaret.
This was directed by Judd Taylor, who directed Paradise Syndrome, Wink of an Eye, Let That Be Your Last Battlefield, Mark of Gideon, and this, as well as the bridge scenes from Whom Gods Destroy. Solidifying some of the points you made earlier. Credits here go story by David Gerrold and Oliver Crawford.
Other dude, Oliver.
Teleplay by Margaret Armin.
Yeah.
The story here goes that Fred Friedberger was bringing on David Gerrold, but Gerrold was young. In his words, 23 looking 12. Hilarious. So he partnered him with Oliver Crawford, who had previously penned Let That Be Your Last Battlefield and personal favorite of mine, the Galileo 7.
The Let That Be Your Last Battlefield, as a reminder, is the half black, half white face one. So the one that is very similar to this one.
Yes, it came up on the scroll earlier, and I was like, that one, okay.
They wrote the story which you talked about. It went a lot harder than what we saw with this. It went very hard with the Mannies, with the direct correlations between the Black Power movement and those things, and then they were taken off the project.
Mm-hmm.
And
then Margaret said, well, what if we put in a romance?
The project was
romances.
handed to Margaret Armin as kind of her tryout to be showrunner for the story editor for the 4th season. David Gerrold does not speak favorably upon the changes that were made to this script. You can see some of the comments he made in the articles on this on Memory Alpha and also on IMDb. Yeah, he rips into it kind of hard, that it took the point out of it, that it made Kirk and Starfleet kind of these white saviors, where in the regional draft, all Kirk did was basically get the two people at the table talking to one another.
Yeah.
And didn't take credit, didn't pat himself on the back, any of that shit. A few times we see the image of what it looks like on the planet looking down from the city. That is a plateau dry river basin in the south of Yemen taken by astronauts on the Gemini 4 orbital mission in 1965.
That's cool.
That is cool.
The remastered effect with the mountains was added later because we're watching remasters of all of this. But that photo was based on a different photo, which was taken from the ISS. So, they're interpolating actual NASA imagery into the set building for the show. I fucking love that.
I love that.
Cool.
Supposedly, the name Droxine means awareness, audacity, and gentleness. Hence Spock's comment of, it makes sense for her name to be Droxine. But
Okay.
I had to look that up on the fucking internet, so...
Just don't know if a word should mean both gentleness and audacity at the same time.
Amazing. It is amazing.
We contain multitudes.
Just before leaving Stratos, when Kirk is kind of yucking and getting ready to transport it out, he mentions that the Federal Bureau of Industrialization might be of assistance in mediating the differences between the troglodytes. The FBI.
Oh, great. Okay.
Terrible. You know how the FBI is really good at doing this type of thing.
Especially
in the
racism.
fucking civil rights in the
Especially
60s.
civil
How they
rights
were
issues.
really, really good at it.
Yeah.
And didn't, murder people.
Yeah, so it's fucky all around. Moving on to some casting stuff, we see Garth Pillsbury as a prisoner. He got his start in porn.
Hell yeah.
His first listed role is Russ Meyer's X-rated Vixen, one of the first films to receive the X rating. He was also in the sequel, Super Vixens, as well as more B movies. That's Fred Williamson, seen briefly as the disruptor Anka. This was one of his first TV roles after playing for the Raiders and the Chiefs, and then he goes on to do a bunch of blaxploitation movies and B movies. He's also in From Dusk Till Dawn, the original Inglourious Bastards, Children of the Corn 5, and recently VFW. We see Jimmy Fields as Cloud Guard 2, who we also see in the Tholian Web as an uncredited role. We see Kirk Raymond as Cloud Guard 1, who's in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Vanna, is played by Charlene Polite. She gets the last name Polite from her first husband, who was a poet. I didn't write down his name, but his last name was Polite. I don't buy that from a poet any day of the fucking week.
No. Lame.
Also had guest roles on Hawaii Five-0 and Mod Squad. It said that she left acting because she divorced the poet, got remarried to an actor who already had a kid, and just wanted to raise her stepson. So she
Good
peased.
for her.
Druxine is played by Diana Ewing. Hawaiian-born, also in Mod Squad, Mission Impossible, Play It As It Lays, and Washington Behind Closed Doors. Neither of them had really extensive careers.
She does sound like a Disney princess.
It sounds like she
absolutely.
belongs in Alice in Wonderland. It's
so-
fucking weird.
I feel like she sounds like Cinderella. I feel like her voice, I like looked it up when I was watching it, and I was like, no, she just has this weird Disney voice.
That brings us to Jeff Corey, who plays Placis.
Mr. Advisor.
Mr.
So
Advisor.
hilarious.
Indeed. Known for roles in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, True Grit, Beneath the Planet of the Apes, the 1948 Joan of Arc, sketches up from the Richard Pryor Show, The Grand Vizier in Conan the Destroyer, Picket Fences, voiced Silverman on Spider-Man the Animated Series, all the way up to an episode of Charmed in the year 2000.
Amazing.
So like over 60 years of film, TV, and acting work. Speaking of acting work, he was a very prominent stage actor, director, and instructor. In fact, he was one of Leonard Nimoy's acting instructors.
Oh, interesting.
For a number of years, he was blacklisted from working in TV and Hollywood for allegedly being a communist. He said later that he was, at one point, a communist, but by the time the movement had gotten to the point where people were being questioned by it, he had left the movement. However, he was not willing to turn over his buddies, so he got blacklisted for a few years, yeah. He speaks more about that in a book called Tender Comrades, if you're interested in that period of Hollywood.
Great name for a book.
Yeah. Moving on to Hell Money, original air date March 29th, 1996. There's kind of a dispute over the credits of the writing here, because everywhere it says that Jeffrey Flaming is the writer of this. However, it is said that Chris Carter was the person who had the idea to mold all of those three stories into a single story. However, I think as someone who has a lot of ideas but no follow-through, following through is the more difficult part.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give Flaming the credit on this.
Absolutely.
Speaking of Flaming, he also writes Too Shy, which I don't know if we get to on this show.
No. Isn't Too Shy the one where it's the internet dating guy? No, we do not get to
Yeah, we
that
don't
one
touch
on that
that.
one.
We don't
And
touch that.
has a bunch of
that's
story.
not-
It's icky.
It's not as bad as the guy who like murders sex workers, but it's right under it.
Yeah.
Not good.
Also has story editing credits in season 3. Also wrote the majority of the show Reaper, 22 episodes of Fringe, 42 episodes of The 100, and has writing credits on 26 episodes of Hannibal.
Yay!
Yay!
Is that all of them?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think that's all of them.
This was directed by Tucker Gates. He also directs the episode El Mundo Gira, which I don't know if we get to as well.
No,
Brings
that
up-
one's not very good. That's
Yeah.
a Chupacabra episode.
And is a prominent TV director. The vase and tiles used in this episode, another thing Erin kind of said, was they were created by the show's production department full on, which is great because nothing expensive was broken. There is a lot written about a couple of the performances in this, mostly Sin and Lucy Liu's character, his daughter. Sin, the actor who plays him, is of Japanese descent, and Lucy Liu speaks Chinese with a different dialect than Cantonese. After they shot this episode fully, someone on their writing team thought, hey, this is an episode about Chinese people. Let's be sensitive to them.
Yeah.
They brought the actors back in to record it in the correct Cantonese dialect.
That's great.
I think it's great.
They did a really good job of overlaying it too. It's not like things aren't mismatched. They clearly did a good job of like following the cadence. Like that's hard to sync that stuff up too.
And then, because Erin and Stella have already talked about who's in this episode, if we're talking about production, I can't let it go by that Rich Milliken, who worked on 216 episodes of The X-Files, did the casting work for this episode and popped off. It's amazing.
It's incredible.
Fucking amazing cast.
Especially with B.D. Wong and Lucy Liu, because they're like really young in their careers, and to like be like, nah, they got it.
Yeah.
They're good.
Yeah. Well, there is also a side point here where at the time of recording this episode, Lucy Liu and David Duchovny were dating.
What?
I actually did know that they were dating, because fun fact about Stella Cheeks is Lucy Liu is like one of my biggest, longest celebrity crushes. Like made a joke that like I had a crush on her before I realized that it was a crush. Like I love Lucy Liu. I have a fucking piece of, like, a print of, like, one of her art pieces in my house. Like, I love Lucy Liu.
I did not know that they dated. He dated so many people that he brought onto the show.
I mean, that's not necessarily a negative
No,
thing.
it's not. It's
As Stell said, this is one of her first big noticeable roles, so...
And she did a great job.
Yeah, she was great.
She's always great. She's perfect.
Her makeup was great, too.
She's perfect.
There is a YA novelization of this called Hungry Ghosts.
Oh, okay.
And then a bunch of dumb white people thought this was based off real events, which the writers of the show thought was really weird.
That is weird.
Dumb white people be ruining stuff.
We'll move on to some casting. Paul Wong plays who's listed as the Wiry Man, but that's the first guy we kind of see die. He's the one with the glass eye. He's also known for the Mark Dacascos starring Crying Freeman martial arts movie. Stephen M.D. Chang plays the Large Man, who's also in Rambo and did everything from martial arts flicks to MacGyver. Mr. Lai in The Witches of Eastwick. 2 episodes of Millennium, a bunch of cool sci-fi video game voiceover like Commander Chang in Angry Birds Star Wars, and is still working today. However, the really cool thing with him is, in the year previous to this episode, I don't know what it is, I need to dig more into what it is, he's listed as a character alongside Majel Barrett and Jonathan Frakes in something called Star Trek The Next Generation Interactive Technical Manual.
It sounds like an interactive technical manual.
I don't know what it is, but it's close enough. That's Diana Ha as Dr. Wu, who we see briefly behind the desk. Also episodes of Dead Zone, Dead Like Me, Fringe, and Almost Human. David Vong as the man manning the vase for the most part, also does A Millennium for Good Measure, Sentinel, Dark Angel, Dead Zone, Smallville. Derek Lowe as the doomed to die in a fire Johnny Lowe from the bumper of the episode, was most currently the War Minister in the live-action Avatar: The Last Airbender, also known for 2 Jet Li action flicks War and Romeo Must Die. That's Ellie Harvey as the OPO staffer. She also plays an uncredited ticket agent in EBE, has a recurring character in Stargate and SG Atlantis, Dr. Lindsay Novak, was also the Morticia on the 65-episode reboot of the Addams Family series, The New Addams Family. TV guest acting through everything in Canada, most recently was the Notary on the Snowpiercer series.
Interesting.
That's Doug Abrams as Detective Neary, aka the only other white person that's actually part of this plot, I guess. We have talked about him previously because he's in the pilot episode Pilot. He is in Genderbender and in Die Hande Verlietz as well.
It's a bunch of losers.
Yeah.
Bunch of losers.
That's Michael Yama as Mr. Sin. He was most recently Harry's dad in the Dumb and Dumber sequel. Fucking great. Other notable roles in Click. He was a pilot character in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. The Bad News Bears Go to Japan. So many video games, including Dead Rising and the Saints Row series. Was in the Coen Brothers' Hail Caesar. Amazing long career. And that brings us to, goddamn, I'm going to go in order of how they're listed in casting, but
I guess we can. I feel like everybody knows who the big 3.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll start with James Hong. James Hong's character in this is credited as the hard-faced man, which drives home the cigarette-smoking man parallel even farther. Mm-hmm. James Hong, legend, of course, if you see this episode or just know the name, you'll know him as soon as you see him. Whether you know him from recently Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah, he was so good in that.
Every TV show through the 60s and 70s except Star Trek. Kind of good on him considering what they did to Asian people, whatever. Also in Airplane, Blade Runner, the John Carpenter classic Big Trouble in Little China, one of my favorite movies. Tango and Cash, Wayne's World 2, Balls of Fury, Covetous Shen in the Diablo video game series, the Kung Fu Panda series, just an absolute legend. He's also one of the founders of the East West Players, the oldest Asian American theater in Los Angeles. He served as the president and charter member of the Association of Asian Pacific American Artists as well. An absolute legend. And then we move on to Lucy Liu. Of course, Kill Bill, Chicago, Charlie's Angels. Elementary.
Sexual Awakening.
Got her start in episodes of Ally McBeal. I don't use this word often, but absolutely fucking iconic. When she's not being amazing on screen, she's also known to practice martial arts, including Kali, Eskrima, and Salat. Those are both stick and knife fighting styles. She also plays the accordion. And Stell mentioned her art earlier. In 1993, before her whole acting career, she had a multimedia art exhibit that won her a scholarship scholarship to study art in China.
She still makes art. She semi-recently had like a big exhibit. Her art pops off. It's good. Like, she makes giant paintings.
Yes, I've seen
She makes big old paintings.
So she can do everything.
She's the best.
She rules.
It's
Love her.
insane. It's best. And then we have BD Wong as Detective Glenn Chow, who is amazing in this role. I would watch a show or a movie that is just this character in this Chinatown existing in this. Bradley Darrell Wong shortened his professional name to BD Wong during the run of his 1988 Tony Award-winning Broadway debut in M. Butterfly to better reflect the androgynous nature of his character. And then he just kept that his professional name. He's the only actor to be honored with the Tony, Drama Desk, Outer Critics Circle, Clarence Derwent, and Theatre World Award for the same performance of M. Butterfly. Outspoken in his support of homosexuality and better representation for Asian characters. Of course, he's most known for his 230-some episodes as Dr. Huang on Law & Order SVU, as well as Father Ray on Oz, return roles in the Jurassic Park series as Dr. Wu, Hugo Strange recently on Gotham, and did a guest role on Mr. Roboto recently that was, like, very, very well credited and respected. And his most recent work is for the voice cast of Gremlins, Secret of the Mogwai, with James Hong.
I love
it.
Like,
Hell yeah.
Again, the casting on this episode is off the chain. Mulder and Scully didn't need to be there, but because they were there, we got to make an X-Files episode, and all these people got to do this episode together.
Yeah.
It's dope.
It almost, like, the one episode that became Final Destination, because they were like, we don't actually need Mulder and Scully in this. This sort of feels like that for BD Wong. Like, this could totally have been just his own series, and they did not need to do this with Mulder and Scully. And, like, while I appreciate it, and it got all these people out there, like, this would have been a very good series on its own.
yeah, but then he would have had no reason to really investigate it because he knew what was going on. So, like, Mulder and Scully are the catalyst for him having to, like...
Yeah, that's true.
Again, for me, it's that detective noir aspect of the dirty cop on the line between doing what's right and existing in this mobster universe. I don't know. I like it.
Murdered.
And then he
Then he
gets
gets
murdered.
murdered.
Then he gets
So
murdered.
that's all of that. Burn bright, don't shoot your eye out.
Wow. Okay.
Now it's time for overall thoughts.
All right.
And he's missing his eye. And I'd like to know how he lost it.
I'd say we monitor Sin's every movement.
I doubt they're to the ophthalmologist, though.
It's just they both were about... I mean, this theme is not fun. Social class
No.
disparity is not fun. But sometimes it's hard to pick a theme when you have to do every single episode.
Yeah, and like that's what it was. This is social
Yeah.
class disparity. If you're poor, you get shit on, basically.
Yeah.
They tie together very well. This one's so over the plate, and
Yeah.
your episode is so mid. It's hard to
Yeah, there's
draw
no
content
like
from
fun things to be like. And also this, it's just like, no, this is just
very
the theme.
mid, super mid.
This is the theme. Classism is bad.
All right, fan questionnaire. As a fan, how would you say this episode holds up compared to other X-Files episodes you've seen?
I think it's a solid episode. It's got a solid concept. It's got good follow through. Yeah, it doesn't have any spooky shit in it. But like, again, if you're a detective, even if you're the spooky detective, you're going to get some ones that are not. And it was still scary. Like they were still dealing with, a scary element. And they did some, even though they didn't get all of the proper evidence or whatever, I guess, even though I think technically they did some good police work. Season 2, they're doing police work before they go back to
Being nuts.
vampires or whatever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
As a fan, how would you say this episode holds up compared to the others you've seen?
It's not very good.
Yeah, it's not good at all. It's not very good. It sucks.
It's not very good. Like,
Can't even get mad about it. You're just like,
I know,
it's fine.
It's like the commitment to the bit is mid, so it's like I'm not even like pissed about it in the way that I am at like other terrible episodes. Like, I don't know. It should have been better, and it wasn't.
And it wasn't.
It wasn't. What was the most X-Files moment of this episode? Right? It's hard. It's a hard question.
In this almost not at all X-Files.
Right? Yeah.
I would say Scully pointing her gun with one hand, definitely.
That's it.
But then
Yeah.
also for Mulder, him walking into a place with new carpet and being like, I'm just going to lift this carpet up and touch this blood. And then being in a stranger's home and being like, I'm going to steal this. I'm going to steal this evidence.
And he like touched the sterile iso just with his bare fucking hands
Yeah.
at one point too. Dipshit.
Yeah. What is the most Star Trek moment of the episode for you?
That the fashion was so much better than the episode. Like
Except for the hats.
but That's the thing, is they committed to the fashion. They committed to the fact that the servants look like sous chefs, I guess. I don't know. They were fucking weird.
Yeah, they're soldiers.
They don't look like it. They
sure
look
don't.
like fops. Yeah.
What kind of soldier is just like wearing a hat and has their legs uncovered?
The kind of police that a community built solely on artists would have created.
Yes. No violence. Wink.
Yes. Correct.
Yes. Yeah, that, I don't know, the fashion, there are so many episodes where it's like, well, at least that caftan was nice. And like, this is one of those where it's like, I'm so bored by this episode, I barely know what's going on, but she looks like a mermaid and I like that. So that, I guess.
That's funny.
Are you shipping anyone?
Nope.
Yep.
They don't do like a lot of flirting or anything in this. They're just doing their jobs.
Yep.
Nope. Are you shipping anyone?
I mean, I kind of liked Kirk and Vanna. I knew it wasn't going to go anywhere, but that like weird bed scene, like they had surprisingly good chemistry inside of that, which didn't make it feel weird. That was part of it. Like it could have been really weird, and I thought they did a really good job with that. So like, it's casual ship. See you later.
See you later.
Have fun with your revolution or whatever.
Is it a fuck, fine, or flop?
Fine, wildly fine.
Oh, man, I would say like it teeters on flop.
I mean, but that's the thing, is it doesn't commit hard enough one way or another, and so it's like, this is fine, I guess.
I would say How Many is a fuck. It's a pretty good episode. I liked it.
Yep, I would agree with that.
I liked it. Well, that's it. That's the podcast.
All right. You can find us on the internet. Follow us at NYD Productions on Instagram and interact with the show using the hashtag XTrexPod. You can find me on Instagram at NYDUrgency.
You can find me on Blue Sky and Instagram at Stella Cheeks.
You can find me on Instagram as FisterRoboto83. And you can also subscribe to our new monthly newsletter at nydproductions.substack.com for updates on things like our music listening recommendations, video game recommendations, reading, everything, as well as getting little previews of what we are about to release in the coming months.
This is our second to last episode of season 3, so make sure to send in your questions, your thoughts about the season, your fanfic requests, your Peg Mare Kills, whatever warms your warp core to xtrexpods@gmail.com for our season 2 wrap up coming soon.
And if you want more ways to get in touch with us to send in those thoughts and send in your comments and be a part of that episode, as well as getting special behind the scenes action like script notes, outtakes, extra podcasts like unofficial channels, and access to our exclusive Discord, then you could check out our Patreon at patreon.com/NYDProductions, where you get all of that and more for as little as $1.
And don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and to tell your friends. We find this nerdy shit is better when it's shared.
We'll see you next episode for Person from the Past. In the meantime,
believe boldly.
Seek truth.
Ship proudly.
X-Trex is created and written by Stella Cheeks, Erin Cline, and Bobby Hoffman, and produced by Bobby Hoffman for NYD Productions. Our show theme is Alien Spy by Ionix, and our show art was made by Jonathan Curtis.